Today's video is about how to put a point back on a knife after you break the tip off of it. This is my knife, and you can see that I snapped the tip off of it by abuse, and that's not a good idea, but it happens. First thing you want to do is to see where to start putting the point, and you do that by closing your knife, and you'll look right here. You'll see that the knife blade is up above your knife housing. So what I'm going to do is mark that with a pencil at the top of the housing, and maybe you can see that mark. And I have to make sure that the new point is below that mark. That way when I close my knife, the point's not sticking up so they'll snag my pocket. Okay, the next thing I'll do is I will use a flat bastard file. It's a 6-inch flat bastard file, and I will start removing metal. If you use a grinder, you could overheat the tip and take the temper out of it, and that's really not necessary. So I'll start working on the top. Now a file only will cut one way. It only cuts when you push it. So I never drag my files backwards. What happens when you drag your file backwards is it dulls your file. Okay, so here we go, and I'll start removing metal. I've got it braced against a 2x4 that's in a table vise to help me hold it steady. Almost there. Okay, it's down below that line. I'm going to take it down just a little bit more, just to make sure it won't cut. So it doesn't, just to make sure it doesn't stick up. Okay, I've got that part finished. You can see I've got file marks in the top of my knife blade there, maybe. So I'm going to go sideways across the blade to try to take some of those out, and not use quite so much pressure. Okay, we can take the rest of that out with some sandpaper. Now I've got to reshape the bottom part of my blade, and this seems a little hard, but it has to be done. So I'm going to decide I'm going to take it off like right in here up to the point. Okay, so just right on the blade itself, and start removing metal. I really like a drop point on a knife because it's much sturdier. And I check my blade to see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to round it a little more and keep filing until I bring it to a point. When you first start using a file, it's going to be awkward, but the more you use one, the easier it'll become, more confident you'll become with it. You notice I pick my file up every time so that I don't drag it backwards. I don't know if you heard that little squeak, but that's a hummingbird checking out what I'm doing. That's not too bad. I'm going to go back down the blade just out of personal preference. A drop point knife, the top of the blade comes down to the point real sturdy. You can see right here where it's thicker now than it normally would have been if the blade was longer. But I'm going to try to leave that thickness to give the blade more rigidity. This is not a true drop point. If it was a drop point, the top would be rounded off more. Okay, now I've got my blade down as much as I want it, but you can see right here it's flat, and this part here is the blade. So what I'm going to do is file down the edge of the knife to bring the blade edge back down to where I want it. Sometimes people ask me, should you go with the blade or across the blade? When I use a file or a stone on a blade, I try to move the knife in the direction of the cut. Because every time you make a file mark or make a stone mark in your blade, they put scratches. You can probably see those scratches in that blade. No matter how fine your stone is or your whatever you're using to sharpen it, it's going to put little scratches. They'll get smaller and smaller the more fine your sharpening tool is, but it nevertheless puts those little grooves in your blade. And I like those little grooves to run with my knife blade. That means just like I'm pushing this file now, so that when they create those little barbs at the end of the blade that indicate that it's sharp, they're all sticking straight down from the knife blade. I like this Stockman. It's a 3-bladed Stockman, and this is an Uncle Henry. And they're getting a little hard to find, but I really like it. When you buy a 3-bladed Stockman, I don't like the way the small blade is fashioned, so I use this same technique to restructure the end of my knife. That looks pretty good. And now I have a usable point. You can see right here though that the blade is not all the way down, so I'm going to have to keep working on that to bring the blades together so that they come to a sharp point. You want to make sure that you take the metal off the same on both sides, because if you don't, you'll move that edge over to one side, and then you'll have a devil to try to sharpen it again. So make sure that you take the same amounts off of each side. See how that's taking that down? I still have to go a little more. can probably see the file dust on the top of this, and there's going to be file dust in your file, and I'll do another one about how to take care of a file, another video. And you use a file brush to remove the little pieces of filing off of your file to help keep it clean. I don't use a regular sharpening device because I really like to use about a 10-degree angle, and most of the sharpening devices are set up to cut a 15-degree kerf, and I just find that that is a lot more aggravating. Okay, so there we go. I'll close it. And my point is sticking up a little bit out of the knife, and I'll fix that a little more real quick. Just kind of round it over so that it goes down in the knife when I close it. You can still see a little bit of the edge of the blade there, but I'll use my sharpening stones to take that out so that it'll take off the file marks. Okay, close my knife and check it again. And now it's down below my knife body, and it won't catch in my pocket. So that's it for putting a point on the knife blade. Have a good day.